Chapter 449. I heard that he went to Godfather's courtyard. They seemed to be chatting until now. Was there so much to talk about when they had just met? As she spoke, she saw the black-robed figure walking over with his hands behind his back. Guan Shilin looked and said, "He's here. Brother, why don't I go to your place to hide for a few days?" Hearing this, Guan Shilin looked at her and said, "It's better if you don't go. He came all the way here to find you. You can't avoid him." With that, he stood up and grinned. "Xiao Jiu, I'll go back first. If there's anything, send someone to call me." As soon as he finished speaking, he quickly walked out of the room without waiting for her reply. When he passed by the Yama King, he cupped his fists and bowed before walking out. Seeing this, Fengzhu sighed inwardly. He could only get up and walk out. Standing at the door, he looked at the Yama Lord and asked, "How long will you be staying here? I'll get someone to arrange a courtyard for you." "Your courtyard is quite good," the Yama Lord said slowly and sat down at the table in the courtyard. "I don't have much to do recently, so I'll stay here for a while. As the host, you should know that you can't neglect your guests. Also, your father said that you should take some time to walk around the city with me and see the scenery and culture of Yunhua City. I'm very busy. I don't have time to stroll around with you. If you're interested, I can find a few people to accompany you." She crossed her arms and leaned against the door. It was obvious that she didn't have time to talk to him. "What else do you need to do? I can do it for you." He looked at her leaning against the door, and saw that she was wearing a red dress. Her face was beautiful and her figure was exquisite, but her lazy posture with her arms crossed was like a man's with a bit of unruliness. Her delicate chin was slightly raised, and her face was cold and evil. She was just like a little hooligan. Looking at her like this, he was curious. He didn't understand how she could have such a changeable face. So many different temperaments? They were clearly the same person, but she had to be as elegant as a celestial fairy to be able to bring out that elegant and refined posture. She had to be unrestrained, languid, and wanton to release an enchanting, soul-stirring, and captivating aura. She could be as innocent as a little white rabbit, so harmless that anyone could pounce on her and take a bite out of her. However, she could also be as cunning as a fox, scheming against her enemies and causing them to lose the most miserably when they were least prepared. Her personality was eccentric and perverse. She dared to wear a set of dirty and messy beggar's clothes. She dared to hug the thighs of anyone she met. She was ruthless and merciless towards her enemies. Her movements were strange and varied. She could take people's lives with a smile. But this kind of her somehow caught his eye and entered his heart. Until now, he still couldn't understand what he saw in her. The most hateful thing was that he had already done so much, yet she still had a look of disdain on her face, as if she couldn't wait to avoid him. Every time he thought about it, he was so angry that he wanted to push her down on the bed and teach her a lesson. Just like what happened at noon. Thinking of the scene at noon, his stern, handsome face couldn't help but soften. His thin lips also slightly hooked up into a happy smile. But this appearance of his, in Fengzhu's eyes, became another appearance. Chapter 450. Sure enough, once these words were said, the Yama Lord's smile froze. He angrily glanced at Fengzhu, who had an annoying expression. This woman was still as clueless as ever. "Yama Lord, I really have a lot of things to do recently. If you want to live in my home, then don't disturb me for a while." She spoke with a smile. Seeing that his expression was not good, she continued, "Although I am very grateful that you have helped our Feng Manor, I still hope that I can do it myself." She had never been a woman who relied on a man. She was used to handling many things herself. If she blindly relied on others, then she would develop a dependent personality. Women relied on men to live, and she definitely would not allow herself to become that kind of woman. Hearing this, the Yama Lord looked deeply at her. Seeing that although she was smiling, her eyes were serious. After thinking for a bit, he knew what she meant. Thus, he looked away. His deep and magnetic voice carried a bit of arrogance. This lord is not someone who will help just anyone. That's good. Ling Shuang, bring the Yama lord to his courtyard to rest. She shouted to the outside and saw Ling Shuang walk in from outside. He gestured to the Yama lord. Please come with me. No matter how thick his skin was, being pushed out by her again and again made him feel a bit embarrassed. Thus, he stood up with a heavy expression, glanced at her, and walked out. Yi glanced at Fengjiu, who was leaning against the door, then followed his master's footsteps. Walking out of the courtyard, he sighed to himself. Didn't Master and the ghost doctor already have a good relationship? Why are the two of them still interacting so strangely? Seeing them leave, Fengjiu's gaze deepened. After a long time, he looked away and entered his room. After closing the door, he entered his space to cultivate. As night fell, Hui Lang, who had received orders, went to the imperial palace alone. He silently snuck into Murong Bo's palace. Seeing that there were quite a few people standing guard around his palace, he secretly sneered. You want to protect him with just these few people? That's too much of a fantasy. Offending him was a small matter, but offending the ghost doctor, his future master's wife, would cause a lot of trouble. Thinking of the bottle of medicine that the ghost doctor had given him, he took it out and played with it in his hand. His eyes turned and he pulled out a bottle from his space. Only then did he disappear. Murong Bo, who had been on guard, did not know that someone had already snuck into his palace and arrived at his side. After midnight, Grey Wolf returned to the Feng Manor and went to Feng Jiu's courtyard. However, he saw that the lights were already out, so he could only return to his master's place. Before he entered the courtyard, Yi glanced at him and asked, "Where did you go?" "I went to help the ghost doctor with something." He cracked a smile and excitedly spoke. Just as he was about to tell him what he had done tonight, he heard his master's voice come from the room. "Come in." Hearing that deep voice, Hui Lang's gaze turned and asked, "How is Master feeling?" After receiving the ghost doctor's orders, he had left the manor to familiarize himself with the route. Thus, he had no idea what had happened in the manor. "Won't you know once you go in?" Yi did not say anything else and indicated for him to go in. Chapter 451. The Yama Lord drank his wine and asked without raising his head, "What did you do for her?" Hearing this, Hui Lang hurriedly said, "This subordinate took the ghost doctor's medicine to the palace and drugged the Murong Bo to teach him a lesson." "You didn't kill him?" He raised an eyebrow. He thought that she would kill him once she found out that the Murong Bo was behind it, but looking at the situation, it didn't seem to be the case. He shook his head. "No, the ghost doctor said that there was no need to take his life. She has many ways to make him wish he was dead." Actually, he was quite curious about the effects of the medicine. What did it do? Yanzhu pondered for a long time before he said, "Since she's willing to order you around, you should walk in front of her more often. If she asks you to do something, don't leave any loose ends. Do it for her." Hearing this, Hui Lang was slightly startled, but he still replied, "Yes. You're dismissed." "Yes." He nodded and walked out of the room with a confused look on his face. Strange, why did Master feel that something was off? Like something was wrong? Could it be that he came back with a stomach full of anger from the ghost doctor? The next morning, he arrived at Fengjiu's courtyard early to wait, but he didn't expect that she didn't wake up early at all. Instead, she opened the door and walked out at noon. "Ghost. Young miss, I finished what you asked me to do last night. I was going to come and tell you, but I saw that you turned off the lights early, so I didn't disturb your rest." He grinned and looked at her dressed in white today. He felt that no matter if it was white or red, she could wear it in her own style. No matter how he looked at her, she was beautiful. Only this kind of person was worthy of his master. Only this kind of person could control his master. He just didn't know, what kind of anger did she give his master yesterday? He asked for half a day last night, but Yi refused to say anything. This made him curious, so he couldn't sleep well. Did you alert the people around him? Fengjiu asked as he walked to the table and sat down. No, I stared at him for a long time before I killed one of his men and replaced him. He didn't even know that I was walking beside him and pouring tea for him. However, I saw that Murong Bo's face didn't look too good. He must have been in a state of fear ever since he returned. With his skills, it was too easy for him to do this. Very good, sorry to trouble you. She nodded with satisfaction. It's no trouble at all. In the future, if it's inconvenient for you to appear or take action, you can leave it to me. Oh right, young miss, what exactly is the effect of that medicine? Can it really make people wish they were dead? His face was full of curiosity. Because he wasn't very proficient in pharmacology, he really didn't know what the medicine in the bottle was for. If you want to know, why don't you go take a look yourself tonight? She curled her lips into a smile, and the smile on her lips was a bit strange and cold. After Murong Bo took the medicine, he won't let the news spread. However, paper can't wrap fire. This matter can't be suppressed for long. I really want to see how he will take action against my Feng Manor when he can't even protect himself. Chapter 452. Just as Hui Lang had expected, at this moment, Murong Bo's palace was in a state of tension and solemnity. The monarch, Murong Bo, who was still fine last night, could not get up this morning. Not only that, his head of hair had all fallen out and was as smooth as a mirror, as if there was not even a blade of grass growing on it. As for Murong Bo, who was originally middle-aged and had a perfect appearance, it was as if his life force had been sucked out of him overnight. He rapidly aged, and in just one night, he turned from a middle-aged man around 40 to a middle-aged man around 50. The skin on his face and body had aged overnight, as if it had been sucked dry by something. The most shocking thing was that his cultivation had also fallen from a martial great master to a great martial master overnight. This sudden change was very strange. No one could find the reason, and no one had the ability to treat it. At the same time, Murong Bo was extremely shocked. If you can't find the reason, I'll cripple you. He shouted angrily and lifted his leg to kick a doctor who was kneeling in front of him. That doctor did not dare to dodge and took the kick directly. He fell to the ground and wiped off his cold sweat. It was too unbelievable. In one night, the monarch's hair had all fallen out and his strength had fallen by a level. Furthermore, it did not seem to have stopped and seemed to be continuing to decline. Whether it was his life force, his cultivation, or his life force, they were all disappearing. This made them, who had never encountered such a situation, tremble with fear and panic. It was one thing if one person could not diagnose it, but if a group of people could not diagnose it, then it was a nameless disease. Could it be that the monarch was worried? Otherwise, why would it become like this? An old man who was kneeling at the side steadied his emotions and said calmly, "Monarch, please calm down. According to our diagnosis, the monarch does not show any signs of being poisoned and your pulse is normal. For this to happen so suddenly, perhaps the monarch is worried about the country's affairs. Perhaps the monarch is relaxed and your body will gradually recover." Gradually recover? Murong Bo's face was gloomy and there was an unconcealable fear in his eyes. He scolded with a trembling voice, "You trash! Don't you see that I'm getting older every second? Can't you see that my cultivation base is dispersing with every passing second? Gradually recover? Do you want me to sit here and wait for death?" The dozen or so doctors did not dare to respond. All of them were kneeling with their heads lowered, not daring to raise their heads. They had never seen such a diagnosis before. How could they treat it? "Monarch, why don't we issue an imperial notice to search for the whereabouts of the ghost doctor? With the ghost doctor's talent in medicine, she will definitely be able to diagnose the crux of the problem." A doctor boldly suggested. Scram! Get out of here! Useless thing! Murong Bo shouted angrily, grabbing the things at hand and throwing them at them. You want me to post the imperial ranking list? Wouldn't that be telling the world that he, the monarch, was no good? At that time, there would be no need for the other countries to invade. Once the people below them turned over, there would be nothing left. There must be a reason for everything. It can't be like this for no reason. There must be a reason. Let me think. Let me think. He forced himself to calm down. From yesterday until today, what he had done, what he had eaten, what he had touched, he recalled it all in his mind, but the fear in his heart was too great. His heart was a mess, and he had no way of calming himself down to think carefully. However, he was certain that this matter was definitely related to the people of the Feng Manor. Chapter 453. Thinking of this, his heart trembled and he suddenly shouted, "Guards! Guards!" A guard in black rushed in, not daring to look at the person above. Instead, he respectfully knelt on one knee and said, "Master, go. Go to the palace immediately and call Yixian over." He tried his best to calm himself down, but his trembling voice still revealed his fear. "Yes." The man in black responded and quickly left. "It must be them. But when did they do it? I'm surrounded by my trusted aides," he muttered in a panic. Speaking of this, his voice paused, as if he suddenly remembered something. He clenched his fists and shouted, "Guards! Guards!" Several men in black came in and the trembling voice said, "Count the number of people for me. See if there's anyone missing. Quickly! Immediately!" Yes. Several people responded and quickly retreated. They counted all their people. When one person was missing, the person counting was startled. He counted again, and after confirming, he quickly reported to his superiors. "Master, we're missing one person." As expected, as expected. He stumbled back a few steps, his face full of shock and understanding. At this time, the shadow guard who had been sent out from the palace came back to report, "Master, according to the people in the palace, the third prince did not return home yesterday. The people they sent out could not find his whereabouts in the city. The people at the city gate said that they saw the third prince leave the city, and did not know where he went." Hearing this, Murong Bo's entire body went limp on the ground. His mind was completely blank. His originally aged person seemed to have aged 10 years at this moment. He sat on the ground, his eyes empty as he looked forward, unable to speak for a long time. Seeing this, the people in the palace looked at each other and silently retreated. Although Murong Bo wanted to seal off the news of him losing his cultivation and aging face still spread. Moreover, the news of Murong Yixian's departure also gradually spread. When they heard this news, the undercurrent in Cloud Moon City, which was not considered peaceful to begin with, began to surge again. In the Feng Manor, the courtyard where the Yama Lord lived. Let me tell you, you don't know how frightened I was when I saw that scene. I almost couldn't help but scream. You definitely can't imagine that the person who was fine the day before had turned into an old man in his 50s or 60s the next day. Hui Lang was talking to Ying Yi in the courtyard. The scariest thing is that his cultivation level is going to be crippled. If it were to disappear gradually, that would be truly devastating. Even if he was a martial great master, he would have to have trained hard for dozens of years. If it were to be destroyed just like that, tsk. Indeed, the ghost doctor's medicine is extraordinary. That's why I say that you can offend anyone but the ghost doctor. Ying's eyes flashed when he heard this. He had seen the ghost doctor's methods before, but he didn't expect there to be such a strange medicine that could make people age day by day. His strength and cultivation were gradually disappearing? Indeed, it could make one wish for death. One would live in fear and extreme panic. Compared to killing him with a single slash, such a method would make him wish for death even more. However, That Baldy's medicine was given by me. I originally wanted to cripple him, but thinking of the ghost doctor's words, sigh. I didn't do it, he said with some regret. As for that Murong Bo, if it were him, he would have finished him off with a single slash. Chapter 454. Hearing this, Yi glanced into the room and said in a low voice, "He's probably waiting for the ghost doctor to finish her work and think of him before coming out." His master's mood was not good. As subordinates, their skin was a bit more tense. Only Hui Lang dared to be happy these past 2 days. He did not even dare to smile. Waiting for the ghost doctor to think of him? Hui Lang had a strange expression and said, "Compared to this, I feel that master should go to the ghost doctor's courtyard and walk around in front of her." Waiting for the ghost doctor to think of master? To put it bluntly, master would probably wait and wait until the ghost doctor forgot about him. Yi glanced at him and suggested, "How about you go in and give master some advice?" "Me again?" Hui Lang glared. "Don't be too evil. How can you suggest that I do all sorts of bad things? If you have the guts, go yourself." "I won't go." "If you don't go to master's place, you can go to the ghost doctor's place." Yi continued, "Haven't you been going to the ghost doctor's place a lot these past 2 days? Say a few good things about master in front of her and remind her. Perhaps she will come over." Hearing this, Hui Lang said, "Although I've been going to the ghost doctor's place a lot these past few days, I haven't seen her much. She seems to be very busy. Also, if she's not giving orders to the Phoenix Guards, she's cultivating in her room and doesn't let anyone disturb her. Even if I wanted to say a few good things about master, I didn't have the chance." As he said this, he seemed to have thought of something and asked, "Isn't master chatting with the Feng family's head quite well? Why didn't you go these past 2 days?" Building a good relationship with his future father-in-law was very important. Moreover, it was rare for them to be in the Feng manor. With this kind of opportunity they could not miss it. The Feng family's head has been cultivating in seclusion these past 2 days. Master naturally did not disturb her. Yi said, "Oh, so it's like that." Hui Lang nodded. Thinking a bit, he said, "Then I'll go take a look at the ghost doctor's place. You should advise master to not always stay in his room and cultivate. While we're staying in the Feng manor, we must take advantage of this opportunity." As he spoke, he walked out to check on the situation at Fengjiu. In the room, the Yama Lord was not cultivating. Instead, he was listening to the conversation between the two people outside. He thought about it. He had already come all the way here. Could it be that he couldn't swallow his pride and get closer to her? That woman was so unromantic. Didn't he already know that? Why was he being so serious with her? Perhaps the more serious he was and the less he went to look for her, the happier she would be. When he thought of this, his eyes darkened and he snorted coldly, "Humph! You want to cast me aside? You won't have a chance." After making up his mind, he got up and walked out of the room. When Ing saw him come out, he immediately stepped forward and bowed. "Master." "Okay," the Yama Lord replied and walked out without stopping. As he walked towards Fengjiu's courtyard, he bumped into Hui Lang, who was on his way back. "Master, eldest young miss is not in the courtyard. I heard that she went to the back of the mountain." Hearing this, a dark light flashed through his eyes. He was a bit surprised. Back of the mountain? Didn't the Feng guards retreat to the back of the mountain? What did she go there for? Chapter 455. Hearing this, Yama Lord clasped his hands behind his back and stood still for a moment before walking towards the back of the mountain. He wasn't going to help, so he was going to see what she was doing? After knowing her for so long, he should already know that she was such a strong-willed person. She planned to handle everything by herself. Since that was the case, he would just watch from the side. That's right, the world is so big, and there are so many strong people that she can't know. She is a person who wants to leave this small 9th-ranked country. it is impossible for him to protect her all the time. If he really protects her all the time, she is afraid that in the future, she will suffer even more. Thinking of this, he pursed his lips. His eyes were dark, and he felt an indescribable discomfort in his heart. At the same time, in the back of the mountain. At this time, Fengjiu called all the Phoenix Guards in front of her for the first time. It was also the first time she had them appear in front of her like this. Looking at the guards in front of her, as well as the 8 team leaders standing in front of each team, her voice was cold as she spoke. This is the first time I have gathered all of you for a lecture since I took over the Phoenix Guard. Every one of you has been groomed by the Feng family and are the most outstanding guards that were carefully selected. Some of you have followed my father and killed hundreds of enemies. I have never doubted your loyalty, but... All the Phoenix Guards felt their hearts rise. Hearing her say the word, but, she stopped and did not continue speaking. Everyone could not help but hold their breath. Their gazes fell on her, wanting to see what she would say next. In regards to this new master, they did not have a deep understanding of her. It could even be said that they only had an impression of her from that day in front of the Feng Manor's gates. After something happened to the Feng Manor's master and family head, they even began to question her strength. However, after the confrontation with the Qingting kingdom that day, they knew that their master was not as weak and incompetent as the outside world said. On the contrary, the scene of her decisively killing the general sent by the country head was deeply imprinted in their minds. How could someone who dared to act like that be weak and incompetent? Don't joke around. If she was really weak and incompetent, their team leaders would not respect her as master. However, it seemed that aside from Luoyu, although the other team leaders kept calling her master, none of them had recognized her as their master? Thinking of this, a strange expression appeared on their faces. They all looked at the team leaders in front of them. Fengjiu glanced at everyone, and her clear voice spoke again. However, I need you to recognize me as your master again. Swear an oath to the heavens and earth. Swear that you will only be loyal to me and never betray the Feng family. Hearing this, everyone's expression. Swear to the heavens and earth? They knew about this kind of oath. Using the Xian energy in one's body to sense the power of heaven and earth to make an oath contract, once this oath was made, if there was any betrayal, even without the master's punishment, heaven and earth would punish the traitor with heavenly lightning. Although they were the Phoenix Guards, they had never made their master to make such an oath. What? Could it be that she did not have enough trust them? Thinking of this, their expressions changed slightly. It was not that they were unwilling, but they felt that it was a little strange. Since he did not doubt their loyalty, why did he have to do this? Chapter 456. I Luoyu, Fan Lin, Qi Kong, Wei Feng, Lu Yun, Guemo, many, Fang Cheng. I hereby swear that I will follow Master for the rest of my life and will never betray him. If I violate this oath, heaven and earth will punish me. 8 deep and solemn voices rang out at the same time. The sonorous and powerful voices, accompanied by their oaths, entered the ears of the Phoenix Guards behind them and Fengjiu in front of them. Just as they finished speaking, 8 complex and ancient patterns floated up from the ground beneath them. They turned into rays of light and shot into the space between their eyebrows before disappearing. At this moment, the Phoenix Guards behind them saw this and immediately knelt down on one knee. Their gazes fell on Fengjiu. Their sonorous and powerful voices were filled with a majestic aura of killing enemies. They rang out in an orderly and solemn manner in the rear mountain. I hereby swear that I will follow Master for the rest of my life and will never betray him. If I violate this oath, heaven and earth will punish me. A huge pattern gradually spread out from beneath the feet of all the Phoenix Guards. After gathering their dark force, it turned into rays of light and entered the space between their eyebrows. The scene was so magnificent that even the nearby Yama Lord's expression changed. His deep and bottomless eyes looked towards the red figure. Ing Yi and Hui Lang followed behind her. They were also shocked when they saw this scene. She was indeed not simple to be able to make those people willingly acknowledge her as their master and swear an oath to heaven and earth. One had to know that once they swore an oath to heaven and earth, they would be handing their lives over to her. It would have been fine if it was just one or two people, but these hundreds of Phoenix Guards did it without hesitation. This really surprised them. However, what surprised them even more was the ghost doctor's next words. Ling Shuang, Ling Hua, distribute the things you have prepared. Yes. Ling Shuang and Ling Hua, who were standing behind Fengjiu, responded. They walked in front of Luo Yu and the others and each handed them a basket. Inside the basket were bottles filled with pills. Distribute it yourselves. Luo Yu took it and glanced at it. He looked at Fengjiu excitedly. Master, this is? Could it be what he was thinking? Fengjiu glanced at him, his voice carrying the aura of profound energy. These are pills that can help you advance. After you get the pills, take them and cultivate on the spot. There are 4 golden core cultivators around to protect you, so you don't have to worry about being disturbed during your advancement. Hearing this, everyone exploded and cried out involuntarily, What? Medicinal pills? Is this really an advancement pill? It's true, it's true. Look, I got it. A Phoenix Guard who had already received the medicinal pill raised the medicinal pill in his hand in surprise. This is a medicinal pill, and there are even medicinal pill patterns on it. Just how many medicinal pills were there? Master, where did all these come from? They sucked in a breath of cold air, feeling incredulous. In a small 9th-grade country like theirs, potions were extremely rare, let alone something as rare as a pill. You still don't know, right? My other identity is the Ghost Doctor. In the future, you won't be lacking in things like potions and medicinal pills, Fengjiu said with a smile. His faint voice made all the Phoenix Guards' hearts beat wildly. Chapter 457. At this moment, they finally understood why even those golden core cultivators would recognize their master as their master. To be able to refine so many pills, how terrifying was their master's alchemy skills. Perhaps many alchemists couldn't compare to her. At this moment, they couldn't help but think that since the mounts and pets by their master's side were so extraordinary, could it be that their master had been feeding them pills or medicines? Otherwise, how could that round snow-white pet suddenly become bigger than a lion? That ferocious appearance was even more ferocious than a ferocious beast. As for that old white, they couldn't understand how it saved their master from the hands of a peak martial arts grandmaster. However, from the looks of it now, it should have eaten a lot of pills or medicine refined by their master. After receiving the pills with excitement, they each held the pills and sized them up. Looking at the pill patterns on the pills, they didn't know what grade they were. However, after hearing from their master that there were 4 golden core cultivators around to protect them, they all sat down cross-legged, consumed the pills, and began to cultivate. Fengjiu glanced at the Phoenix Guards who began to cultivate after consuming the pills, then instructed Ling Shuang and Ling Hua to return to the residence to take care of the affairs. After all, her father was also advancing recently, and now the Phoenix Guards were the same, so some of the trivial matters in the residence couldn't be left unattended. These days, her pills were all refined in the space. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to rush out so many pills for the Phoenix Guards to use. Moreover, that Murong Bo was about to lose his cool and should be making a move in the next 2 days. As she walked, she saw the 3 figures not far in front of her. When she saw them, her eyes moved slightly, and a smile appeared on her beautiful face. Yama Lord, why are you here? She heard that this guy hadn't gone out for the past few days, so she thought that he would stay in that room. She didn't expect that he would run out today. Sigh. Actually, she really wanted to say that he should stay in that courtyard for a few more days. because she really couldn't stand the fiery gaze he had when he looked at her. He was really afraid that one day, she wouldn't be able to hold herself back and directly pounce on him and eat him up. The Yama Lord didn't know what she was thinking. When he saw the smile on her face and the way her eyes curved, he had long forgotten what she had said about him being amorous. His heart also soared when he saw her and the smile on her face. Even so, he still maintained a cold and indifferent attitude. After glancing at her indifferently, he looked at the surrounding scenery. He opened his mouth and said, "This monarch has nothing to do, so I decided to take a walk in the back mountain." So that's how it was. Then please continue, I won't disturb your mood. She nodded her head in realization and was about to leave with a smile. Who knew that she would hear that low voice with a hint of anger in it? I'm not in the mood now. She shrunk her neck and looked away. She pretended not to hear him and lightened her footsteps. She sped up, intending to walk past him. She didn't want to be stuck with this guy. Chapter 458. Fengjiu rubbed her nose and looked up at him. She smiled and asked, Yama Lord, is there anything else? This lord has been here for a few days, but you haven't done your duty as a host. Shouldn't you take a day out to accompany this lord? He said in a low voice, his deep eyes staring at her. If one listened carefully, they would be able to hear the hidden bitterness in his voice, as if he was a resentful husband who was left alone in an empty room. Seeing her smile embarrassedly and her eyes darting around as if she was thinking of something, he immediately interrupted her and threatened, Don't you dare find another excuse for this lord. Hearing this, Fengjiu's mouth twitched. She glanced at him and smiled. Yama Lord, you're thinking too much. I just wanted to say that I'll go back and change my clothes to accompany you. Hearing this, the Yama Lord's expression softened. He glanced at her red clothes and said, These clothes look good. What he meant was, I think they look good, so there's no need to change. How can that be? I'm going out with the Yama Lord. How can I not dress up? Don't worry, I won't refuse to go. I'll go back and change my clothes. And it won't take long. You can wait for me in the front hall. The Yama Lord frowned, but didn't say anything else. He only said, This lord will wait for you in your courtyard. He had been tricked so many times that he found it unbelievable that she would agree to accompany him so quickly. That's fine. Fengjiu smiled in response, then walked back with him. Seeing the two of them walk back, Hui Lang and Ying Yi looked at each other. Hui Lang asked, What do you think the ghost doctor is up to? Is she really going out with Master? Why do I feel like she's up to something again? Didn't you hear Master say to wait in her courtyard? He shouldn't be fooled again. Ying Yi said and followed the two people in front of him. Seeing this, Hui Lang also followed, but in his heart, he was thinking, if other people said this, he wouldn't think too much, but this ghost doctor. It's hard to say. After returning to the courtyard, Fengjiu asked someone to serve the Yama Lord a pot of tea while he went into his room to change his clothes. Hui Lang and Ying Yi arrived behind the Yama Lord and waited. The two of them noticed that ever since the ghost doctor said that she wanted to accompany Master out for a walk, Master's lips had always carried a faint smile. He probably didn't know how gentle and happy his expression was right now. She was clearly drinking tea, but when she took a sip and turned her head to look at the tightly shut door, the two people behind her looked at the sky speechlessly. He felt that his master was now like a young boy, so excited that he couldn't find his limits. The ghost doctor had only said that she wanted to accompany him for a walk, and he was already this excited. If it was the wedding night in the future, how excited would he be? Just thinking about it, they couldn't help but worry for him. They originally thought that Master and the ghost doctor had eaten her up in the room that day, but looking at the way the two of them interacted these past few days, they knew that Master didn't succeed. If he succeeded, would he be like this? Meeting a master who wasn't very open about relationships, they, as subordinates, were really anxious. Chapter 459. Master, don't worry. The longer the ghost doctor dresses up, the more it proves that she cares about you. Isn't there a saying? A woman dresses up for the one she loves. She's dressing up for Master. Otherwise, she wouldn't have specially come back to change clothes just to accompany Master. Hearing this, Lord Yan's heart skipped a beat uncontrollably. His hand that was holding the cup of tea trembled imperceptibly. A light flashed across his deep black eyes as he looked towards the room. He thought to himself, is she really dressing up for me? That's right. Otherwise, why would she come back to change clothes just to accompany me? As the saying goes, a woman dresses up for the one she loves. Does this mean that she cares about me? That's right. Women usually don't mean what they say. Even if they like someone, they won't admit it. I know. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but look forward to it. Seeing that his master had returned to his usual calm and indifferent self, Hui Lang grinned and stepped back. He raised his chin towards Ing Yi as if to say, "How was it? I'm smart now, aren't I?" He chose the words that his master liked to hear the most. Ing Yi glanced at him but didn't say anything. Perhaps Hui Lang's words were effective. After waiting for a while, Yama Lord was in a good mood as he drank his tea. After a long time, he heard the door creak open. His heart skipped a beat and he instinctively looked towards the door. His heart was filled with anticipation. However, when he saw the person who walked out, the corner of his mouth twitched imperceptibly. Suddenly, all the anticipation and joy disappeared, leaving only a stifled feeling. His gaze moved away from Fengjiu and coldly glanced at Hui Lang behind him. When Hui Lang saw Fengjiu walk out, his mouth was slightly agape and his face was full of shock. Especially when he sensed his master's cold gaze, he felt a chill run down his spine. He couldn't help but shiver as he complained in his heart. Because of this, he bitterly looked at Fengjiu and asked, "Eldest miss, why did you change into these clothes?" Changing clothes was one thing, but what was with the makeup on her face? If he knew this would happen, he wouldn't have said anything just now. Is my outfit not good enough? Fengjiu lowered her head to take a look. He was wearing a moon-white male robe, and his ink-black hair was tied up. He had the appearance of an elegant and noble young master. She felt that he was quite good-looking. "The clothes are quite nice, but it doesn't seem to match with your thick black eyebrows." She had a perfectly good face, yet she was able to change it into a completely different one. Not only did his master feel stifled when he saw her, even he felt stifled when he saw her. How could he still be able to shop properly? What do you think? She looked at the expressionless Yama Lord with a smile, and found that his face seemed to be tense again. The Yama Lord glanced at her and pursed his thin lips. "As long as you think it's good." I think it's good. Let's go. I'll accompany you shopping today, and won't be back until nightfall." She straightened her crescent moon robe, then took out a fan from her waist and opened it with a swish. With one hand behind her back and the other in front of her body, she gently fanned herself and walked out with large strides. Chapter 460. After leaving the manor, the Yama Lord put on his mask. Behind him was Hui Lang and Ing Yi. Behind Fengjiu was Ling Hua, and Ling Shuang remained in the manor. The group walked out. Because of their outstanding temperaments, they attracted the gazes of the women on the street. However, there were some people who recognized the masked Yama Lord as the person who had killed the nascent soul cultivator in front of the Feng Manor's gates. Thus, they did not dare get too close. They could only watch from a distance and quietly discuss. Fengjiu did not pay attention to the gazes of the citizens in the city. Instead, he smiled and said to the Yama Lord beside him, "There's a place in the city that makes pretty good congee. How about we eat some congee before strolling around?" Hearing this, the Yama Lord knew that she had not eaten in the morning, thus he nodded. Lead the way. It's just up ahead. We'll reach it once we turn around a large street." she said with a smile and led them toward the kanji stall. It was a kanji stall on the corner of the street. The stall was owned by an old couple. Normally, there would only be 3 to 5 people eating there. Perhaps it was because it was already close to noon, but there were not many people there. The Yama Lord and Fengjiu sat at one table. Hui Lang, Ing Yi and Ling Hua sat at another table. They each ordered a pot of 100 fresh kanji. The stall owner saw that there was still business even when they were about to close, so he smiled and gave them a few side dishes. Try it. She scooped a bowl for him and placed it in front of him. It's even better with the side dishes. The Yama Lord glanced at her. Seeing that she had scooped a bowl for him, he also scooped a bowl for her. Eat. If it's not enough, we'll order another pot. Seeing him scoop the kanji for her, her eyes flashed slightly, but when she heard what he said, she could not help but smile. It's good enough if we can finish one pot for 2 people. Also, there are many side dishes in the city. The thing we don't have to worry about the most is food. As she spoke, she picked up some side dishes and ate the 100 fresh porridge. She had indeed not eaten anything early in the morning. She had originally wanted to return to the courtyard to eat after settling the matters with the Phoenix Guards, but who knew that she would run into him? Since they wanted to go shopping, then let's go shopping. Seeing that she was eating happily, the Yama Lord also ate a few mouthfuls and helped her put some side dishes in her bowl. In the end, the small pot of porridge was about 4 or 5 bowls. Except for the bowl that he ate, she ate the rest. Are you full? Yes, I'm full. She touched her stomach. She was indeed full after eating a pot of porridge. Moreover, she didn't feel like moving after eating. Burp. She burped and smiled embarrassedly. Let's go for a walk and digest the food. Then find a place to listen to some songs and enjoy the scenery. The Yama Lord had no objections to where they went. He had originally wanted to spend more time and opportunities with her. Therefore, he went wherever she said to go along the way. He followed her from the morning until the sky gradually darkened. Until Ling Hua was sent away by her, saying that he had to clear the venue first. Seeing this, his black pupils moved slightly. She had indeed accompanied him all day. Now that the sky was about to turn dark, could it be that she had arranged something for him? Thinking of this, his heart moved slightly, and he faintly looked forward to it. Mistress, I've already given the orders. Ling Hua returned to report and stood behind her in an orderly manner. Yama Lord, let's go. Today's highlight is here. I've specially prepared this for you. Chapter 461. Behind him, Hui Lang and Ing Yi looked at the building in front of them, and couldn't help but have a bad feeling in their hearts. Why was the decoration of this building so similar to Rin Xiang's little brothel? This couldn't be a brothel, right? Thinking of this, his lips moved, and his expression turned strange. He wanted to speak, but seeing his master's expectant expression, he couldn't help but shut his mouth. Looking towards the ghost doctor, he saw that her face was filled with excitement. Seeing this, he couldn't help but glance at Ing Yi, seeing that he was also staring at the building, his expression deep in thought. He raised his sleeve to wipe away the cold sweat on his forehead, hoping that he had only guessed wrongly. How about bringing Master to visit a brothel? He really didn't dare to imagine what kind of expression his master would have when he went in. This kind of idea was something that most people wouldn't be able to think of, but when it came to the ghost doctor, who had a strange personality, this kind of strange thing was very normal. He knew it. How could the ghost doctor agree so easily to accompany his master to stroll around for the whole day? So, she was waiting for his master here. Could it be that she thought that by sending a few beauties to his master would stop thinking about her? One had to know that when it came to beauties, the beauties in Yen Palace's beauty brothel weren't any less than the beauties outside, but he hadn't seen his master have any thoughts about any of them. If his master could be sent away with just a few beauties, he wouldn't have come all the way here to the ghost doctor's place. Speaking of which, he really found it strange. What did his master see in the ghost doctor? In terms of beauty, although she was extremely beautiful, but to them who were used to seeing all kinds of beauties, beauty really wasn't worth mentioning. In terms of cultivation talent, there were so many women who were more talented than the ghost doctor. Because she knew how to refine pills and make medicine? That was even more impossible. His master wasn't that kind of superficial person. How could he fall in love with her because of that, and fall in love with her? Did his master really fall in love with her sly fox-like personality and her crafty and strange methods? Thinking of this, the corner of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. His master should have masochistic tendencies. The more he suffered from the ghost doctor, the more he wanted to pounce on her. Master! Suddenly, Ing Yi's voice pulled him back from his reverie. He glanced at Ing Yi beside him and saw him clutching his stomach with one hand, a look of discomfort on his face. This subordinate has eaten something bad. Can you allow this subordinate to leave first? The Yama Lord glanced at him and said, Go! Thank you, master. As soon as Ing Yi finished speaking, he turned around and quickly left. Grey Wolf couldn't help but be dumbfounded by this scene. Was this kid trying to slip away? Just as he was thinking about whether or not he should learn from him and slip away, he saw that the ghost doctor had already brought his master inside. Seeing this, he could only bitterly follow behind. Perhaps it was because the place had been cleared, but there was no noise in the building. There was only a beautiful woman in her 30s holding a fan of beauty in her hand. She swayed her hips and slender waist as she walked up to welcome them. When the young masters arrived, the ladies in the building were already prepared. Just now, there were a few who were asking why the young masters hadn't arrived yet. The beautiful woman was wearing a translucent red muslin dress, showing off her ample buttocks and slender waist, as well as her snow-white breasts that looked as if they were about to jump out. Her entire person looked very provocative. She held a red handkerchief in one hand and gently flicked it at Feng Zhou's body, while the other hand used a fan to cover half of her red lips. Her laughter made Hui Lang, who was standing behind the Yama Lord, have goosebumps all over his body. Chapter 462. At this time, Yama Lord looked at this scene, but his face was livid, and his whole body was filled with murderous intent. Suddenly, the procuress who still wanted to come forward froze in place, and she couldn't even laugh anymore. He stared at Feng Zhou with a dark face, gritted his teeth and asked, Is this the highlight you said? Hey, not this, it's the ones behind. As if she didn't see his anger, she lifted her chin and motioned him to look at the graceful women who were coming down from the second floor. She said, I spent a lot of money to let the brothel keeper pick some artists. See if there's anyone pleasing to your eyes. Yama Lord resisted the urge to strangle her. He stared at her, flicked his sleeves, and went out. Young master, the girls quickly came down and surrounded them. When Ling Hua saw this, he immediately shouted and pointed at Hui Lang, He's the boss, he's rich. Grey Wolf felt goosebumps all over his body when he heard the brothel keeper's ecstatic voice. He rubbed his arms and was about to follow after his master when he was surrounded by more than a dozen women dressed in tulle. Their voluptuous and slender bodies pressed against him, and a burst of seductive breeze assaulted his nostrils. He only felt his head rumble, and a wave of heat rushed up to his head. His face instantly turned red. Don't touch me! Go away! Don't come over! Go away! He was surrounded by a dozen or so women with exquisite figures. Some of them hugged his waist and groped his body. Some of them wrapped their arms around his neck and moved closer to his face. Some of them grabbed his hand and pressed it against a certain soft place. He only felt that his entire body was unwell in an instant. Go away! This angry shout contained the pressure of spiritual power. As soon as the voice came out, the pressure spread out like water ripples. In an instant, the women hanging around his waist were shaken out. For a time, screams of pain sounded in the building. You actually want to destroy my innocence." Hui Lang almost howled like a wolf. He had never encountered such a situation before, and his entire face was flushed red. He was hugged and hugged by more than a dozen women, and some even grabbed his hand to press on their soft breasts. They were simply too shameless. It was that time when he was punished by his master to go to the small brothel and was forced by that brat Rin Xiang to change into a thin veil. However, it was only for viewing and was not allowed to be touched. Unlike these women here, each one of them was like a hungry wolf pouncing on its prey. These people were too scary. He was a dignified golden core cultivator, but he was actually taken advantage of by these brothel girls. Just thinking about it made him want to kill them. He glared angrily at Ling Hua, who was standing at the side. It was all his fault. If it wasn't for his shout, those women wouldn't have all thrown themselves at him. Then, he looked at Feng Jiu and wanted to get angry, but in the end, he just said, "You've hurt my master's heart too much. He's serious about you." With that, he turned and left. He just couldn't understand. His master was so outstanding, so why wasn't the ghost doctor moved? His master had already stepped forward and put down his face time and time again, but she pushed him away time and time again. A woman's heart was really like a needle at the bottom of the sea. It was impossible to guess or touch. He could only pity his master and him, who had been taken advantage of. Watching them leave, Ling Hua took out some silver and bribed them, then walked out of the brothel with Feng Jiu. Seeing that his master's expression was not as indifferent as before, his heart clenched. Chapter 463. He knew that the Yama Lord was very outstanding. That day, when the Yama Lord was chatting with the family head, he had been there the entire time. He could tell that he loved his master very much because every time he mentioned his master, his expression would be gentle. Although he did not know why his master had pushed away the Yama Lord and refused to accept his feelings, he believed that his master had her reasons. "Let's go back," Feng Jiu said as she walked towards the Feng Manor. Returning to the courtyard, Ling Shuang came out to welcome her. Seeing that it was only Feng Jiu and Ling Hua, he asked, "Has master eaten? Do you need the kitchen to prepare food?" "No need. Have someone prepare water. I want to bathe." She walked inside, leaving Ling Shuang and Ling Hua outside. Ling Shuang gestured to Ling Hua and the siblings walked out of the courtyard. Without waiting for Ling Shuang to speak, Ling Hua, who knew what she wanted to ask, said, "Master's mood isn't too good. Sister, take care of her carefully. If master doesn't say anything, don't ask." Hearing this, Ling Shuang was slightly surprised, but he still nodded. I understand. I'll have someone prepare water for master to bathe." After saying this, he turned and left. Ling Hua glanced at the main room in the courtyard before silently standing guard outside. Not long after, the room had someone prepare hot water. Feng Jiu took off her clothes and entered the tub to bathe. She leaned against the side of the tub and slightly raised her head. Through the mist and steam, she looked at the ceiling and slowly closed her eyes. In the depths of her memories, a matter that she did not want to recall was once again brought up by today's chaotic state of mind. That was something that had happened in the 21st century. To the current her, it was something from her previous life, but in her heart, it was as if it had happened yesterday. As the head of the modern hidden sex, she had been trained differently from normal people. While other children were in kindergarten at the age of 6, she was already learning how to assassinate. While she was still doing experiments in other people's laboratories, she was already known as the perverted ghost doctor. She had been different from ordinary people since she was young. Because she was not an ordinary person, she yearned to be an ordinary person. That was until she was 15 years old when she received an assassination mission. The person she was to assassinate was a 23-year-old man who was a genius in the medical field. He was also a man who was as gentle as the warm sun. At that time, after memorizing the information of the prey, She wanted to investigate it because she never killed innocent people. She just didn't expect that because she wanted to understand him, she would end up together with him. Now that he thought of it, he couldn't help but want to laugh. Back then, when she was trying to get close to him, she had also directly latched onto him like that. That man knew that she did it on purpose, but he still brought her home. Later on, she asked him why he had allowed her to stick to him in the first place. He smiled gently and looked at her with eyes full of gentleness and affection, but he didn't say anything. Because she was afraid that her identity would scare him, she had been an obedient girl in the 3 years they were together. She was an ordinary young girl. She went to school, went home, and went shopping. They even agreed that the two of them would get married once she became of age. However, she didn't expect that when she received a call from their laboratory that day, she would receive news that he was about to die. When she rushed over, she only saw him give her an apologetic and reluctant smile. Chapter 464. She suppressed her panicked heart and took a deep breath to calm herself down. Back then, he had died very suddenly. Others had said that he had died because he had come into contact with a poisonous gas during his research. However, when she had tried to investigate his death, she had found out that it was a woman from their laboratory who had done it for the sake of fighting for the right to conduct research abroad. The right to conduct research abroad? She had actually plotted to kill him for such a laughable reason. She had not sent that woman to prison for the country to plant. Instead, she had brought her back to the secret order's secret prison and had used a year to slowly torture her to death. How could she not torture someone to death for daring to lay a hand on one of her people? She suddenly opened her eyes at the thought of this, and a cold light shot out from her eyes. It's her. The person who had transmigrated into Su Royun's body was her. It was the woman who had been tortured to death by her in her past life. Her memories did not contain any details about Su Royun, but Feng Qingge's memories did. Damn it! Why did I only think of this now? She cursed softly as her eyes filled with an eerie murderous intent. If she had known that Su Royun was that woman from her past life, she would not have let her die so easily. However, how had that woman transmigrated into this place? Furthermore, she had arrived here before me? She furrowed her brows at the thought of her and her heart trembled. She had arrived and that woman had arrived as well. Then, could he be here as well? Her heart began to thump fiercely at the thought of this possibility. However, she quickly tossed the thought aside. How could there be so many possibilities in this world? That kind of thing could never happen. Master, is the water too cold? Should I add some hot water? Ling Shuang's voice could be heard from outside. Feng Qingge, who had been standing guard outside, had noticed that she had been soaking in the tub for a long time without letting anyone in to pour her some water. She was worried that she had been soaking for too long, so she had asked this question. There's no need. She composed herself and rose from the tub. She then grabbed a towel and wiped the water off her body before putting on her clothes. She then walked into the room and said, "You can let someone in to pour the water now." "Yes," Ling Shuang replied. Only then did he let the 2 maidservants go in to pour out the water and put the bathtub into another room. "Master, the kitchen has stewed bird's nest for you. Eat it before you rest." Ling Shuang came in with a bowl of bird's nest. Seeing her sitting on the bed, he brought the bird's nest to the bedside. Feng Jiu, who originally wanted to tell her to just eat it, looked up and saw a trace of worry in her eyes. Seeing this, she smiled and said, "It's okay, I'm fine. I'm just in a bad mood. I feel much better after taking a bath." As she spoke, she took the bird's nest and slowly ate it. Seeing this, Ling Shuang's worried heart gradually relaxed. After she finished eating, he put the bowl back on the tray and said, "Mistress, rest early." "That's right." Luo Yu and the others came over in the evening. They said that the strength of the Phoenix Guards has increased by several stages. Even their strength has increased. "Okay, got it." She nodded and gestured for her to leave. Ling Shuang bowed and walked out with the tray. As soon as she walked out, she saw Ling Hua being pulled by Hui Lang to a small path not far away. The two of them were talking about something. Seeing this, she walked over and called out, "Ah Hua, sister." Ling Hua quickly walked back and asked, "Did mistress eat the bird's nest?" "Yes, I ate it." Ling Shuang glanced at Hui Lang and said to Ling Hua, "You should go back and rest early. I'll keep watch here." Chapter 465. My master is asleep. If there's anything else, we can talk about it tomorrow, Ling Shuang said, letting Ling Hua go back to rest first. When Hui Lang heard this, he thought about how he had been taken advantage of by those women tonight. He immediately became angry and said, "Your master is asleep, but my master can't sleep." His master had been sitting there since he came back, his entire body emitting a murderous aura. He didn't dare approach him. Looking at him like this, he didn't need to think about sleeping tonight. He probably wouldn't be able to sleep with a belly full of anger. What does being unable to sleep have to do with my master? I'm warning you, my master is in a bad mood. Don't bother him. Ling Shuang coldly said these words and handed the tray to a passing servant girl. He himself returned to the courtyard to stand guard. Hui Lang, who had been full of anger, felt strange when he heard these words. The ghost doctor was in a bad mood? Why was she in a bad mood? How could she be in a bad mood? Could it be that she regretted taking his master to the brothel? But when this thought appeared, he remembered that he always thought too much. In order to prevent himself from thinking too much, he followed behind Ling Shuang and asked, "Why is she in a bad mood? Who made her angry?" Ling Shuang ignored him, but when he saw that they were about to reach the courtyard, he was afraid that he would disturb his master's rest. He stopped and turned around to stare coldly at him. "She's been in a bad mood ever since she came back. Ling Hua said that she didn't eat anything tonight. When I asked her when she came back, she said she didn't eat. She just drank half a bowl of bird's nest. You're asking me why she's in a bad mood? I should be the one asking you what's going on." Her voice was cold and she stared expressionlessly at Hui Lang. For a moment, Hui Lang couldn't help but take a few steps back. It wasn't that he was afraid of her. It was just that when he looked at her exquisite figure, even though she was wrapped in black clothes, her swollen and full chest reminded him of some unpleasant memories from before. When she turned around and came closer, he couldn't help but want to retreat. When this instinctive reaction came out, his heart trembled and he was inwardly startled. Could it be that tonight's events left a shadow in his heart? He hadn't married yet. What should he do if he was really afraid of women? Thinking of this, he instantly didn't even care about his master's bad mood. He turned around and walked back, somewhat absent-minded and somewhat flustered. When he returned to the courtyard, Ying Yi saw him. Seeing his strange expression, he asked, "What's wrong?" "I just went to the ghost doctor's place, but I didn't see her. However, I heard from the siblings Ling Shuang and Ling Hua that the ghost doctor wasn't in a good mood either. Furthermore, she slept without eating anything tonight." He didn't lower his voice, but spoke in his usual tone. When his voice fell, he glanced at the room, pointed at the room, and asked Ying Yi about his master's condition. After seeing Ying Yi shake his head at him, he sighed and went to the stone table in the courtyard and sat down. In the room, the king of hell, who was drinking alone, paused in his action of pouring wine when he heard Grey Wolf's words. She was in a bad mood too? She didn't eat when she came back tonight? He couldn't help but frown when he thought of how she had accompanied him all day and hadn't eaten anything other than the 100 fresh porridge she ate at noon. Why didn't this woman know how to take care of herself? Chapter 466. After a slight pause, he opened the door and walked out. As he walked out of the courtyard, he said to the two people in the courtyard, "Tell the kitchen to prepare a few dishes, 2 bowls of rice and a bowl of soup, and send it to her courtyard. As he spoke, he had already walked out of the courtyard. With his hands clasped behind his back, he walked towards Fengjiu's courtyard. The two people behind him looked at each other in dismay. Master went to the ghost doctor's place again? Wasn't he angry with her? Hui Lang was a little stunned. He wondered why his master didn't even have the slightest bit of temper when he met the ghost doctor. When he came back, he still had a stomach full of anger. Only now did he hear that his master hadn't eaten dinner. So he hurried over again. This is called a husband lacking in discipline. In the future, when he marries the ghost doctor, his master will definitely be eaten alive. Ini said and then said, I'll go tell the kitchen to prepare food. Ai. This is what it means to have one thing counter another. Hui Lang shook his head and followed him out. He wanted to see if his master couldn't even enter the ghost doctor's courtyard. On the other side, in Fengjiu's courtyard, when the Leng Shuang who was guarding the courtyard saw the Yama Lord walk over, she was slightly startled. However, she still walked in front of him and blocked his path. My master is already asleep. If the Yama Lord has something to say, then say it tomorrow. The Yama Lord swept a glance over her and walked in. In a few steps, he pushed open the door and entered. After entering the room, he didn't go into the inner room. Instead, he sat down at the table in the outer room. Ben Jun has come to drink with you. This one sentence, stiff and low, made the sleepy Fengjiu who was lying on the bed slightly startled. His expression was strange. Ling Shuang saw that she could not stop him, so she went into the inner room and spoke to Fengjiu. Fengjiu motioned for her to leave. He got up, put on his coat, and walked out. She saw the Yama Lord sitting at the table, staring at her deeply. She gathered her coat and walked over. Do you have wine? She asked. Hearing this, the Yama Lord glanced at her and took out a jar of wine from the space. Top-grade spirit wine. At the same time, he took out 2 small jade-colored wine glasses. Seeing this, Fengjiu smiled and called out, Leng Shuang, bring 2 bowls. The Yama Lord glanced at her and put away the 2 small glasses. Hui Lang, who was standing by the door, was dumbfounded. That was a top-grade spirit wine. 1 drop was worth 1,000 gold, and this ghost doctor actually wanted to drink it from a bowl? Could he not be so wasteful? Ling Shuang placed the 2 small bowls on the table and stepped back. He also stood by the door and looked at the 2 of them. Pour the wine. Fengjiu motioned. Seeing that he was holding the wine jar without moving, she did not understand. There's no hurry. The side dishes are not here yet. His low voice was magnetic. It was like mellow wine, very intoxicating in the night. Why do we need side dishes to drink wine? If you don't drink, I'll pour first. Let's see what this top-grade spirit wine tastes like. As she spoke, she reached out to take the wine jar. Unexpectedly, the hand that reached out to grab the jar was pressed down by his hand. She looked up and suddenly laughed. Can you not take advantage of me? Even if it's a hand, it's a woman's hand. The Yama Lord's mouth twitched imperceptibly. His deep eyes stared at her. He could also see that she was not right tonight. What was the reason? She was clearly smiling, but there was a hint of loneliness in her eyes. It made his heart clench. Chapter 467. Hui Lang and Ling Shuang, who were at the door, looked inside and saw the Yama Lord holding the wine jar with one hand and Fengjiu's hand with the other. The 2 looked at each other like this, one smiling and the other staring. The atmosphere made the 2 guards feel strange. Fortunately, this strange atmosphere was quickly broken. Ini walked in with a few servants carrying food. When he saw the 2 guards at the door staring inside, he also looked inside. When he saw the scene in Fangchen, he coughed lightly and said, Master, dinner is here. Come in. The Yama Lord ordered and patted her hand away. Then, he arranged the 2 bowls, unscrewed the wine jar and poured half a bowl of wine into the bowls. After Yi ordered the servants to serve the food, he left the room. At the same time, He called the 2 guards outside the room and closed the door, leaving the 2 alone. When the Yama Lord saw Fengzhu pick up the bowl of wine and gulp it down, he couldn't help but frown slightly. He put some food in the bowl in front of her and said, "Drinking wine on an empty stomach is bad for the body. Eat some food." Fengzhu drank half a bowl of wine and her eyes lit up. "It's really the best spiritual wine. It's mellow and fragrant." Another bowl. She felt the spiritual wine flowing down her throat and reverberating in her stomach. A wave of spiritual energy was also mobilized, nourishing the veins in her body. She knew that this was an extremely rare spiritual wine. The spiritual wine she found for her grandfather in the past didn't have such rich spiritual energy, and the taste wasn't as mellow, but it was already considered the best. At least, she hadn't encountered this kind of wine, at least in the Qingting Kingdom. The Yama Lord glanced at her. "Another bowl? Do you think this is water?" "I drank too little, I don't feel anything." She supported her face with one hand and looked at him with a smile. "Didn't you ask me to drink? Since you're here, don't be so stingy. How can you not enjoy drinking? This wine has a strong aftereffect. You won't be able to withstand it." "Don't worry, I won't get drunk. Even if I get drunk, I won't have sex after drinking. Don't worry." She waved her hand and said. However, when a certain man heard the words drunken sex, he glanced at her with his deep black eyes. He saw that she had only drunk half a bowl of wine, and her eyes were already a little blurred. Although she said that she wasn't drunk, her half-drunk expression was exceptionally charming, and it made his heart skip a beat. His mind was immediately filled with thoughts of drunkenness. "Why are you holding the wine jug in a daze? Quick, pour the wine." She frowned. Because she had drunk so much on an empty stomach, a layer of red had already appeared on her exquisite and beautiful face. Under the candlelight she looked very alluring. At this moment she was different from her usual self. Her languid appearance carried an enchanting charm. No matter how one looked at it, it was alluring. He unconsciously swallowed his saliva, and his deep gaze moved away from her seductive and drunken face. He coughed lightly and said, "Eat some food first, then I'll pour." He then added, "Tonight you'll have enough wine." Hearing this, Fengzhu laughed. He slapped his hand on the table and laughed out loud. "Good. You're the one who said it. We won't go home until we're drunk." What strong alcohol! It was obvious that he was unwilling to let her drink. This stingy man, she was going to drink all his wine tonight. In the courtyard, Hui Lang and Ying Yi secretly looked at each other when they heard the words coming from the room. Chapter 468. No wonder Master took out that priceless top-grade spirit wine. So it was to wait here for the ghost doctor? However, would Master really get the ghost doctor drunk? The 2 glanced at Ling Shuang and felt that they should first get rid of her. Otherwise, even if the ghost doctor was drunk, with this girl around, it wouldn't be convenient for Master to do anything. Thus Hui Lang's eyes turned and he smiled. "Ling Shuang, go back and rest first. We'll keep watch here." Ling Shuang glanced at them and didn't say anything. She continued to stand quietly in the courtyard. She also heard the conversation in the room. She was afraid that Master was in a bad mood and drank too much. The 2 saw that she was ignoring them, so Hui Lang gave Ying Yi a look and asked with a smile, "Ling Shuang, how long have you been by the ghost doctor's side? I can see that she trusts you a lot. Last time, she only brought you to Qingting Kingdom." Looking at the 2 people approaching, she frowned. "You." Just as she spoke, she felt a pain in the back of her neck and fainted. Looking at Ling Shuang, who fell to the ground, Hui Lang glared at Ying Yi. "Why didn't you catch her?" Ying Yi glared at him and also said, "Why didn't you catch her?" "I saw that you were closer. I thought you would catch her." After the 2 finished speaking, they silently stared at each other. After a while, Hui Lang said, "Hurry and carry her to the room over there." "You carry her, I won't." Ingi kept retreating and didn't even look at him. When Grey Wolf heard this and saw how quickly he dodged the attack, Grey Wolf wanted nothing more than to kick him. He fiercely glared at him, and then looked at Ling Shuang, who was lying unconscious on the ground. After hesitating, he went forward to carry her and brought her to the room. As for the two people drinking wine in the room, it was a completely different scene. Feng Jiu, who was originally only wearing a coat, had already taken off her coat. She was only wearing an inner garment. She held a bowl in her hand and gulped down the wine until the bowl was empty. Then she slammed the bowl on the table and said, "Pour more." The Yama Lord, who was sitting next to her, glanced at the woman whose eyes were blurred and whose face was flushed red. His deep eyes moved, but he didn't pour more. Instead, he picked up some food for her and said, "Eat some food." "Wine, I want wine." She waved her hand and pushed the wine bowl in front of him. She pointed at the bowl. "Here, pour." Seeing this, the Yama Lord lifted the wine jar and poured her another bowl. This was spiritual wine, so even if the aftereffects were strong, it wouldn't be too harmful to the body. Moreover, she had more or less eaten some dishes, so it shouldn't be too bad to drink more. She drank bowl after bowl, and the jar of spiritual wine was quickly emptied. The Yama Lord shook the empty wine jar and looked at the woman beside him. He couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. "Why are you looking at me?" The drunk woman was holding her chin with both hands and smiling at him with a red face. Her head was shaking back and forth, and her eyes were shining. He couldn't help but find it interesting. So, she was actually so cute when she was drunk. Cute? He never thought that such a word would pop out of his mind. "I want to tell you something in secret. Come here." She narrowed her eyes at him with a pair of seductive drunken eyes and hooked her finger at him. Chapter 469. But what he didn't expect was for the woman to wrap her arms around his neck and pull him to her side. Her warm lips pressed against his ear. That warm breath and numb feeling made his entire body stiffen. He could only feel a wave of heat rushing down his abdomen. However, a certain drunk woman still didn't know what she had done. She continued to spray her warm breath into his ear, and even let out a pleasant laughter that sounded like a silver bell. Let me tell you, you're actually really handsome and cool. You're quite pleasing to the eye." Then, the hand on the Yama Lord's neck moved up and touched his face. She giggled and said like a hooligan, "Don't think I don't know that you're always hovering in front of me like a peacock trying to seduce me. Believe it or not, I won't be able to hold myself back and burp. I'll pounce on you." She burped and patted her chest with one hand. Her blurred eyes saw the man in front of her with a pair of deep black eyes staring straight at her. She was annoyed and her red lips muttered, "What are you looking at? Believe it or not, I'll take care of you." "What do you want to do with me? Tell me honestly, have you been drooling over me for a long time?" His voice was low and hoarse, and it carried a magnetic charm that could captivate one's heart. It sounded as if it was luring and seducing. His pair of deep black eyes were suffused with a burning light as he stared at the charmingly drunk woman before him. He only felt as if a hand was lightly stroking his heart, scratching it to the point it was itchy and numb. She giggled and stood up. She stretched out her hands to hold his face. A pair of intoxicated beautiful eyes stared at the resolute and handsome face in front of her. She smiled and said, "I'll be honest with you. I've been drooling over your beauty for a long time. Tell me, how can there be someone as good-looking as you?" No, you're not human." Hearing her words, his heart burned with passion. His pair of black eyes shone with an astonishing light. That was joy, that was joy, that was an indescribably wonderful feeling. He only knew that she was drunk and confused, but the words she said made his heart soar. What belly full of anger! What brothel girl! What repeated rejection! At this moment all of it disappeared without a trace. He only knew that in this life, he would never let go of this woman. "I'm not human?" Then what is it? He asked with a smile. He pulled her into his arms and let her sit on his lap. Fengjiu was so drunk that her words were flying all over the place. She could say anything that she normally wouldn't say at this time. She felt that she was pulled down by him and sat down. She giggled and wrapped her arms around his neck. Her beautiful face was flushed with excitement. What a soft chair! As she spoke, she deliberately twisted to feel the softness of the chair. But soon, she frowned and muttered, "Take the stick away." She reached out to pull it away, but she heard someone take a deep breath. Her whole body tensed up. She blinked her blurry eyes and approached his face like a curious baby. "What are you doing?" Yanzhu felt a swelling pain in a certain part of his body. Looking at the dazed woman in his arms, he gritted his teeth and picked her up. Chapter 470. Fengjiu was lifted into the air. She kicked her legs and giggled. "I didn't seduce you, you did," the man said angrily. Because of the fire in his body, all the muscles in his body swelled. His whole body was tense, and he felt like a fire that needed to be put out by the woman in his arms. Fengjiu, who was being carried into the inner room, rubbed her blurry eyes. When she saw the handsome and charming face in front of her, she nodded and said normally, "Yes, I did." But in the next moment, her normal expression changed. She laughed like a little hooligan and touched the man's body with her hands. "Uncle, seduction is not just about the mouth. You also need to use your hands and feet. Come, let me touch your muscles. I've wanted to touch your abs since the first time I saw you." The Yama King's eyes were deep and serene when he heard this. Two scorching flames danced in his eyes as the corners of his lips involuntarily curled up. He looked at the drunk woman in his arms and said, "Oh? So you've been lusting after me in the 9 Valleys forest." I just want to touch." She smiled with her drunken eyes and rubbed against his arms like a kitten. "When we're on the bed, I'll let you touch me. You can touch wherever you want." It was rare for Yanzhu to be so magnanimous as he spoke. The smile on his face could no longer be contained as he strode into the inner room. However, at that moment, he saw the woman who was buried in his arms patting his hand. "Put me down. You made me so hot. Do you think you still have the chance to back down?" He ignored her. He just wanted to do her. Burp. "Put me down." She burped again, and her face didn't look too good. "I'm not putting you down." The bed was right in front of him. It wasn't easy to get her drunk, so how could he miss this opportunity? Hearing this, Fengjiu frowned. She pulled open the front of his clothes and buried her face in it. Then, she vomited. The Yama Lord, who initially refused to let go and only had eyes for the big bed, froze at this moment. His eyes were filled with disbelief and astonishment. He lowered his head to look at the woman in his arms. After vomiting for a while, she wiped her mouth with the corner of his shirt. She looked up at him innocently as if to say, "It's not my fault. You're the one who won't let me down. I really can't hold it in any longer." She blinked her eyes innocently. Because of the alcohol, she felt that her eyelids were getting heavier and heavier. After vomiting, she felt much better, so she grinned and slowly fell asleep. "Fengjiu!" Yama Lord gnashed his teeth and angrily roared. This roar was very clear and resounding in the night. Practically everyone in the Feng Manor was alarmed. The next day, Fengjiu woke up at noon. He had drunk too much last night, so his head was heavy when he woke up, and his temples were still hurting. Lying on the bed, she gradually regained consciousness. Suddenly, she remembered what happened last night and couldn't help but blink. What did I do last night? A few scenes appeared in her mind. Some of the things she said and did appeared in her mind as her consciousness gradually cleared. Her face also became strange. Chapter 471. After getting up and washing her face and rinsing her mouth, she opened the door and walked out. However, she did not see Ling Shuang outside. Thus, she called out to her, but there was no response. She then went to her room to take a look, but she saw the servant lying on the bed in her tight clothes, without even taking off her shoes. She raised an eyebrow and went forward to take a look. She then pressed her Rinzhong pressure point and saw Ling Shuang slowly wake up. "Master." When Ling Shuang saw her, she seemed to have thought of something and quickly jumped out of bed. "Master, are you all right?" "I seem to be fine, but how did you get knocked unconscious? And with such force?" Her mind spun. In the Feng manor, aside from Hui Lang and Ying Yi, there was probably no one else who dared to knock out Ling Shuang. Last night, the two of them did it. Ling Shuang furrowed her brow as she spoke. Thinking of Hui Lang and Ying Yi's plotting last night, her cold little face became as cold as ice. "I originally wanted to ask you what exactly happened last night, but it seems like you don't know even more than I do." She gently sighed and waved her hand. "Forget it. I'll go eat something first, then I'll go take a look at the phone guards." Seeing her master turn to leave, Ling Shuang gritted her teeth. After washing her face and rinsing her mouth, she changed into a set of black clothes and left. She did not go cause trouble for Hui Lang and Ying Yi because she was not as strong as the two of them. If she fought, she naturally could not beat them. Thus, when she saw her master eating in the courtyard, she said, "Master, I want to teach Hui Lang and Ying Yi a lesson, but I can't beat them." Feng Jiu ate some food with her chopsticks and drank some soup. Hearing her words, her eyes lit up and a sly look appeared in her eyes. "That's easy. I have plenty of ways to take care of them." She put down the bowl in her hand and wiped the corner of her mouth. She then pulled out a bottle of medicine from her space. "Here, a bottle of medicine is enough." She smiled like a sly little fox and said, "This is better than beating them up." Ling Shuang took the bottle of medicine and looked at it. He put it away, bowed, and walked to the kitchen. They lived in the Feng manor, and the kitchen was filled with the Feng manor's people. If they wanted to do something, it would be very convenient. Seeing that Ling Shuang had gone to the kitchen, Feng Jiu walked out of the courtyard and planned to go to the back of the mountain to take a look. Unexpectedly, she had only walked a short distance when she saw a figure coming from the front. When she saw him, she instinctively wanted to run away. She did as she was told. She wanted to hide before he saw her. Unexpectedly, she had just turned around and taken a step when she heard his voice. "What? Last night you hugged and touched me, and now you want to turn hostile and not recognize me." The Yama Lord snorted coldly and walked over with steady steps. Last night, he had soaked in cold water for an entire night. His skin had wrinkled from being soaked in cold water for so long before he managed to suppress the fire. This woman had stirred up his fire but was not responsible for extinguishing it. If the same thing happened a few more times, he reckoned that a certain part of his body would be suffocated. Yama Lord, good morning." She gave an embarrassed smile and turned around to greet him. However, she was surprised to find that although the man's face was tense, there was no anger on his face. Instead, there was a look of helplessness. Seeing this, she could not help but feel a bit strange. Because when she saw him, her mind inexplicably recalled a few scenes from last night. When she woke up, she remembered hugging, touching, and teasing him. In the end, she had vomited all over him. That was enough to make her feel too ashamed to see anyone and wanted to find a place to hide. But now that she saw him, her gaze could not help but move to his lower abdomen. Her eyes flashed. Chapter 472. That shouldn't be the case. She must be thinking too much. Although she thought this, her heart felt inexplicably weak. She lowered her head even more, and her eyes flickered, not daring to look at that man. When the Yama Lord saw her guilty expression and saw her eyes look around his body before moving to a certain place below his abdomen, he could not help but tense up. Under her fiery gaze, a certain place began to change. Feeling the change, a trace of awkwardness appeared on his face. He angrily glared at the shameless woman, and his low voice carried a trace of embarrassment as it came from his mouth. It's broad daylight. Where are your eyes looking? Fengjiu quickly raised his head to look at the sky. I'm not looking anywhere. I'm just looking at today's weather. Humph. He let out a cold snort and took a deep breath to ease his tense body. The cold aura in his body secretly circulated, and as the cold aura brushed across his body, the cluster of flames in his lower abdomen also dissipated. A gentle breeze blew by, bringing with it a trace of icy aura. Feeling it, Fengjiu glanced at him and remembered that the 1,000-year cold poison in his body had not been cured. She thought quickly and said, "That, Yama Lord? How is the cold poison in your body right now? It hasn't flared up again, right? The pills I had Hui Lang give you back then, are they effective?" The Yama Lord, who had calmed down, pursed his lips and glanced at her before replying. After taking your pills, it hasn't flared up again on the 15th of every month. That's good. When will I give you a small bottle of blood? When I have time, I will study your blood and see if there is any way to cure the cold poison in your body. She spoke in a fawning manner. In truth, he had helped the Feng manor a great deal, and he had come from so far away. She knew his intentions. If there was any way to cure the 1,000-year cold poison in his body, she hoped that it could be cured. That time in the 9 volts forest, she had seen his appearance when the cold poison flared up. It was indeed quite distressing. Unfortunately, it was a 1,000-year-old cold poison after all. If it was an ordinary cold poison, it would not be so strenuous to cure. Hearing this, the Yama Lord did not say anything. He took out a dagger and slit his wrist. Then, he took out a small bottle of blood and handed it to her. Fengjiu's eyes widened in astonishment. Looking at the hand that was still dripping with blood, she couldn't help but scold. "Is there something wrong with your head? I said I wanted a small bottle of blood, but I didn't want it immediately. Why did you cut your wrist without saying anything? Do you think there's too much blood?" Although she scolded him, she still took the small bottle from him and quickly took out some medicine and cloth from her space to bandage her wound. The Yama Lord lowered his head and looked at the woman who was bandaging his wound. He kept scolding and scolding her, but he couldn't help but feel warm. At this moment, a trace of gentleness flashed through his deep black eyes, and an undetectable smile appeared on his lips. "It's nothing. It's just a little blood." When he spoke, his voice was abnormally gentle. To him, it was indeed just a little blood. This sort of wound was not something he cared about. It did not matter if it was bandaged or not. "It's done." As Fengjiu spoke, she looked at his wrist with satisfaction and took a step back. The Yama Lord's gaze moved away from her body. When his gaze landed on the wrist that she had bandaged, the corners of his mouth twitched. Chapter 473. Seeing him stare at the bow in his hand, Fengjiu took the opportunity to slip away. "All right, I still have matters to attend to. I'm leaving." The Yama Lord looked up but only saw the woman's figure leave like the wind. Seeing this, he secretly shook his head and continued to walk forward. At the same time, in the imperial palace, Murong Bo, whose body was aging day by day, was becoming more and more irritable. In just a few short days, he had already killed quite a few guards. This caused the people who walked in front of him to tremble in fear. They could not find a cure, nor could they find any trace of the ghost doctor. Every day, his body would age by 10 years. In just 2 or 3 days, his entire person had changed greatly. Perhaps even if Fengjiu was here, he would not be able to recognize him. "Gather everyone for me. Tonight, we will surround the Feng manor and launch a surprise attack. If we can catch Fengqinga, catch Fengqinga. If we can't catch her, catch the unconscious Feng Shao. I don't believe that they will refuse to hand over the antidote once they fall into my hands." He angrily roared. His voice was old and dry, as if he was an old man on the verge of death. All the life in his body had already left him, as if he could die at any moment. However, with just one roar, his body was unable to endure it and began to violently cough. This caused the hearts of the kneeling generals and black-clothed guards to tighten. One person hesitated for a moment, then said, "Master, I fear that this is not appropriate. The Feng Manor currently has a strong person standing guard. I fear that—" Bang! Bang! Before he could finish speaking, a teacup landed heavily on his forehead. Following that, it fell to the ground and shattered into pieces. A smear of warm blood seeped out from that person's forehead. He did not dare wipe it away. He only lowered his head and did not dare say another word. "Speak. Try and stop them again." Murong Bo glared fiercely at the people below. "Whoever dares to stop me again, I will kill them first. This subordinate will immediately go and gather people. Tonight we will surround the Feng Manor. We will definitely capture Feng Qingge alive and bring Feng Shao back for the master to deal with." The people below quickly said, not daring to go against his wishes. In reality, everyone knew that they could not touch the Feng Manor at this time, but with the Emperor's orders, how could they not obey? If they didn't obey, they wouldn't need to be killed when the time came. They would probably be killed right here and now. In regards to attacking the Feng Manor, everyone seemed to be able to imagine the scene. That would be complete annihilation. A single nascent soul stage cultivator was enough to flatten the entire country of Glorious Sunday. Moreover, the expert that could take a nascent soul stage cultivator's life was still in the Feng Manor. To have them attack the Feng Manor, wasn't that just seeking death? The monarch had been tormented by his illness to the point where he had lost all reason, which was why he had such wild fantasies. They were not. They clearly understood what the outcome of attacking the Feng Manor would be. Since that was the case, then, a thought formed in their mind. However, no one said anything at this time. They continued to kneel respectfully in the main hall, earnestly listening to the instructions of the Murong Bo. "All right, all of you can leave now. Come with me tonight. I do not believe that a mere Feng Manor, with just one strong person, can stop my tens of thousands of soldiers." His voice was gloomy as he spoke. Waving his hand, he gestured for everyone to disperse. The people below were already kneeling and did not dare to move. After hearing his words, they all respectfully complied. After saluting, they stood up and left. After leaving the main hall, they all let out sighs of relief. Chapter 474. It was as if all the factions had received the news. The shops on both sides of the street and the small stalls on the side of the road all closed when it got dark. As night fell, not a single person could be seen on the streets of Yunyu City. It was eerily silent, and the atmosphere was so heavy that it made people's hearts feel heavy. This continued until the streets were surrounded by groups of soldiers. Group after group of soldiers trotted toward the Feng Manor. The sound of their chaotic footsteps could be heard on the streets, and it was very clear in the night. In the shadows, the people sent by the various factions and clans who had heard the news saw the soldiers and quickly sent word back to their clans. The glorious Sun Country was in chaos. The glorious Sun Country was in chaos. Tonight, Yunyu City was destined to not be peaceful. It was destined to be a bloody scene. Who would win and who would lose? Even if they did not see the result, they could guess the result. The Mu Rong family's most outstanding child, the third prince, had already left Yunyu City and was nowhere to be found. The other children of the Mu Rong family did not amount to anything. Aside from the elders of the imperial family, who were in closed-door cultivation, the only person left in the Mu Rong family was Murong Bo. Now it was said that he had contracted a strange illness. His cultivation had dissipated, and his appearance had aged. It had only been a few days since he had fallen ill. The Mu Rong family's luck had run out. Now, they had mobilized all of Yunyu City's soldiers to attack the Feng Manor. According to the news, Morong Bo suspected that his strange illness was caused by the Feng Manor. Thus, he wanted to capture the Feng Manor's eldest young miss and the unconscious Feng Shao to force them to hand over the antidote. However, when they heard this, they felt that it was inconceivable. The Feng Manor's loyalty was unparalleled in the entire glorious Sun Country. How could the Feng Manor's people go and poison Morong Bo? If this was true, then Morong Bo must have done something against the Feng Manor. Otherwise, why would the Feng Manor do such a thing? Moreover, Feng Shao was currently unconscious, and old Master Feng's whereabouts were unknown. The Feng Manor only had the eldest young miss supporting it. How could she possibly act against Morong Bo? Quite a few people felt that Morong Bo's suspicions were because he was too ill. Otherwise, who would mobilize the entire city's military forces to attack the Feng Manor despite knowing that the Feng Manor had a strong guard? Wasn't this the same as throwing an egg against a rock? The people from the various families and factions also headed towards the Feng Manor. They did not plan on getting involved. They just wanted to see the scene and confirm their guesses. What was different from the outside was that inside the Feng Manor, everything was normal. Feng Shao was in secluded cultivation and had yet to come out. Everything in the Feng Manor was managed by Fengjiu. As for the Feng Manor and the manor, they had already been sent to guard every corner of the Feng Manor after hearing the news. This time, they did not stand guard outside. They only stood guard inside the Feng Manor, making preparations for battle. At this time, Fengjiu was wiping his dagger in the courtyard. Ling Shuang and Ling Hua were standing behind him. At this time, a few puffs came from outside. Hearing this sound, the three people in the courtyard could not help but raise the corners of their lip. They could not help but smile. I could hear this vulgar sound from far away. I thought that you two would hide in your rooms and not come out. Fengjiu raised his eyes and looked. His gaze did not land on the Yama Lord in front of him. Instead, it landed on the two people behind him with awkward expressions. Chapter 475. Looking at the awkwardness on their faces, as well as their tense posture, Ling Shuang felt very relieved. Her master was right when he said that a bottle of medicine could relieve any anger. She didn't know what the medicine was for, but looking at their current state, it was indeed better than giving them a beating. The Yama Lord glanced at the two people behind her and frowned. Go and stand outside the courtyard. She meant that she was disgusted. Well, how could she not be disgusted when the two people beside her were farting all the way here? Master, please help us put in a good word with the ghost doctor and ask for an antidote. Look at the two of us, it's really unsightly. Hui Lang said awkwardly. Just as he finished speaking, there was another pff. He had just released one, and Ying Yi had released two as well. The Yama Lord's handsome face darkened. Sigh, there's no other way. There's no antidote. Feng Jiuxiao squinted as he put away the dagger in his hand and said, This medicine won't kill you, and it won't hurt or itch. At most, you'll have to let it go for 3 days and 3 nights. That's good, it'll help you get rid of your bad breath. She chuckled. You don't have to thank me. I won't take your money. Hearing her say that there was no antidote, Grey Wolf and Ying Yi immediately withered. Their faces were pale and they lowered their heads. They felt that they could not hold it in anymore. The two of them hurriedly skipped out. When they came out of the courtyard, several people in the courtyard heard a louder and louder sound coming from outside. The Yama Lord ignored them and looked at Fengjiu. Do you need my help tonight? She remembered that she liked to handle things herself and didn't like him to interfere. That was why she came over to ask. After all, she didn't know how much hidden power the glorious Sun Emperor had and whether she could handle it. There's no need. I've already arranged everything. There won't be any accidents. That Morong Bo is only a cripple now. As for the people under him, Master is useless. I don't believe that they will still be loyal to him. Tonight, she wanted Morong Bo to know that after provoking the Feng family and provoking her, she would not let him off so easily. He would pay a painful price for his stupidity. No matter who it was, no one could change his fate. Seeing the natural radiance between her brows, as if she had a card up her sleeve, he nodded. This monarch understands. This monarch will not interfere. As his deep and magnetic voice fell, he took a deep look at her and said, "However, no matter what, if you need my help in the future, you must tell me. I will always be your strong backer." He stretched out his hand and handed over a token. Hearing this, Fengjiu's eyes flashed and her heart skipped a beat. Looking at the serious man in front of her, she didn't know what to say. She shifted her gaze and looked at the token in his hand. The two words, Yanling, were very conspicuous. "This is the token of your Yanling?" She didn't take it and just looked at him. A token that could be taken out from his hand was probably not an ordinary token. Chapter 476. That wouldn't be too good, right? She opened her mouth. She was a bit afraid to accept a power that was spread all over the place for her to use. "Take it." The Yama Lord stuffed the tablet into her hand and turned to leave, saying, "After taking care of this matter, I'll find you for a drink." Hearing this, the corners of Fengjiu's mouth twitched. Looking at the red ears of the man leaving, she could not help but reveal a smile. This pretentious and arrogant man, she had already gotten drunk once. How could there be a second time? Let's go. Let's go and see what our monarch has become. She put away the token and walked out. Behind her, Ling Shuang and Ling Hua looked at each other and faintly smiled. They also followed behind her and walked out. Tonight, aside from Feng Shao, who was in closed-door cultivation, as well as the 8 middle-aged Feng guards protecting Feng Shao, everyone else was preparing to fight against Murong Bo. They were all ready and waiting for orders. They were only waiting for Fengjiu's orders. "Master." Luo Yu and the others were guarding the gate. Without Fengjiu's orders, they did not open the gate. At this time, seeing her walk over, they all respectfully saluted and called out, Fengjiu glanced at them and pushed off the ground with the tip of her foot. Gathering her energy, she leapt into the air. Her red figure flew through the night like a swan. With a spin, her dazzling figure landed on top of the Feng Manor's gate. Luo Yu and the others raised their heads and saw their master wearing dazzling red clothes. She stood on top of the gate with her hands behind her back. Her red clothes and black hair fluttered in the wind. Her entire body emitted an unbridled and arrogant aura. Even if millions of soldiers were to come, she would still destroy them all. Seeing this, their hearts also began to tremble. They all gathered their energy and jumped, landing on either side of her. The 4 golden core cultivators had appeared at some unknown time. The 4 of them stood not far away, facing the incoming army. With their hands behind their backs, they looked at the soldiers who had quickly arrived and surrounded the Feng Manor. A murderous aura emanated from their bodies, and the pressure of a golden core cultivator seemed to faintly be released. They were only waiting for Feng Jiu's order before taking action to exterminate the people below. When the soldiers below, as well as the people from the families hidden in the shadows, saw the figures standing on top of the Feng Manor's gate, their gazes narrowed. Compared to the countless soldiers, the people from the Feng Manor were far too lacking. However, in terms of strength, not to mention the Feng family's eldest young miss and the others, just the 4 golden core cultivators were enough to sweep through everything. The people from the Feng Manor had appeared, but what about Murong Bo? They had heard that his appearance had greatly changed after he fell ill. What exactly had he become? Just as they were secretly pondering this, an imperial carriage carried by 8 martial great masters flew over and steadily landed 50 meters away from the Feng Manor's gate. Surrounding the imperial carriage, aside from his 8 trusted martial great masters, there were also 10 or so black-clothed guards protecting it. The imperial carriage was partially covered by a thin veil. Even the surrounding people could not clearly see what Murong Bo had become. But the more it was like this, the more curious the people from the family clans were. What exactly had Murong Bo become? Was that why he did not dare come out to meet people? Just how serious was it for him to make such an irrational decision in this sort of situation? Our Lord has graced our Feng Manor with your presence. Your presence has truly brought light to our humble Feng Manor. If we do not open the gates to welcome you, we truly cannot express the excitement in our hearts. Chapter 477. Seeing the imposing auras of the Phoenix Guards, who exuded an iron-blooded fighting spirit, the soldiers' pupils shrank. Their eyes were filled with fear. In terms of soldiers, the Phoenix Guards were without a doubt the number one. Each one of them could fight against 10 or even 100. They had followed the Feng family's master onto the battlefield to kill enemies. The Phoenix Guards were the sharpest blade in the Feng Manor, and they were also the sharpest blade in the country of Glorious Sunday. If it was outside, they would cheer for this sharpest blade, but inside, when this sharpest blade faced them, other than respect, there was also fear. Fear rose from the bottom of their hearts. This was because they were not a match for this sharpest blade. Even if they had far more people, when everyone knew that the result of fighting was death, fear would occupy their hearts and devour their fighting spirit, making it impossible for them to continue fighting. What the soldiers saw was different. When the family heads saw the Phoenix Guards, their pupils shrank. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. How long had it been? Why had their auras changed? It was as if every one of them had advanced in rank. The aura of profound qi on their bodies had become much stronger. This aura of profound qi gathered together, and the fighting spirit they emitted became even fiercer. But how could they all advance in rank? It was clearly an impossible matter, but it was right in front of them. Wasn't this too inconceivable? Seeing the Phoenix Guards appear, all the soldiers unconsciously retreated. Murong Bo's eyes were gloomy and crazy. His hands tightly gripped the sides of the imperial carriage, and he angrily glared at the red figure standing at the top of the Feng Manor's gate. Feng Qingge, don't think that I don't know that you poison me. Hand over the antidote. Otherwise, I will raze your Feng Manor to the ground tonight. When the old and hoarse voice came out, the people from the family clans could not help but be startled. Was his illness that serious? That voice did not have the slightest trace of profound qi. It was as if he was a normal old man, and it was the kind of old man whose life was at its end. So that was the case. No wonder he would make such an irrational order. Regardless of whether he did it or not, the only outcome waiting for him was death. Since that was the case, why not take a gamble? Perhaps from his point of view, as long as he forced the Feng Manor to hand over the antidote, he would be able to live. However, why did he believe that it was the Feng Manor that harmed him? Just as he was thinking about it, he heard a clear and somewhat lazy voice in the night. My lord, my Feng family has been loyal for generations. How can you slander us like this? You said that I was the one who harmed you, but do I have a reason to harm you? Reason? Ha 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 ha. Feng Qingge, you already knew that I sent people to ambush and assassinate Feng Shao, right? That's why you poisoned me and wanted to torture me to death. That was right. I personally led people to ambush and kill your father. It's a pity that I didn't manage to kill him at that time and even let him hang on to his life. However, now that he's alive, it's no different from being dead. What's the point of being an unconscious cripple? Chapter 478. Everyone widened their eyes and looked at Murong Bo, who seemed to have gone mad with disbelief. No one would have thought that he, who was on the verge of going mad, would actually say such words. After all, even if it was really him who had led people to ambush Feng Shao, he still couldn't say this in front of so many people. Not only would he lose the support of the people, it would also make them feel bitterly disappointed. Sure enough, when the soldiers heard what he said, they all became restless. The entire scene became a bit chaotic. As for Murong Bo, it was as if he did not care. Yes, he did not care because he was neither human nor ghost. All that was left was madness. After being provoked by Fengjiu's words, he said everything. In his mind there was only the antidote. Aside from the antidote, there was a strong desire to destroy the Feng Manor and raze the Feng Manor to the ground. In his eyes, the reason he had ended up like this was because the Feng Manor was powerful and bullied its master. However, he never thought that the Feng Manor would never bully its master despite being powerful. In fact, they had always protected the country of Glorious Sun and had always protected the Murong family. It was because he did not have the heart to allow others to harm the people who were loyal to him that he ended up in this situation. When Fengjiu heard him say that, the corners of his lips curled up slightly and a faint smile appeared on his face. The drug that she had Hui Lang give him, aside from making him age, would also make him lose his rationality in fear and become impulsive. Even if she wanted to take care of him, overthrow his country and destroy his dynasty, she wanted everyone to know that it was this Murong Bo who wanted to kill the Feng Manor. It was he, Murong Bo, who had forced the Feng Manor to rebel. Based on the Feng Manor's reputation for being loyal, she believed that after destroying Murong Bo's kingdom, her father could easily take over and become the ruler of the country of Glorious Sun. That's right. She had always had this idea in mind. Ever since Murong Bo acted once again, she had this idea. She originally wanted to bring her father and grandfather to another country, but she thought about it. She was still young. If she stayed by their side in another country, she would be able to protect them. However, if she left to explore and train, she was worried that they would be suppressed by various forces in a new place. Moreover, the Feng family had lived here for generations. Although Yaori was a small country, her grandfather and father were born and raised here. No matter what, there was still affection. Her grandfather said that there was no news yet. If they left, her grandfather might not be able to find them in the future. Therefore, she had the intention of pushing her father to the throne. Only when her father ascends to the throne and becomes the new ruler of the Glorious Sun Empire would he not have to go out with her. He would not have to go out with her and experience dangers with her. Moreover, he could wait here for her grandfather to return. She thought about it again and felt that no matter where she went, there was no better decision than to turn the country of Glorious Sun into her Feng family. With her strength and the strength of the Feng family, her father could definitely sit firmly on the throne of the country of Glorious Sun. Although it was a small 9th-grade country now, their country would definitely obtain a higher ranking in the future. Chapter 479. My Feng family has been loyal for generations and has protected this glorious country. It's just a pity that the ruler is muddle-headed and tyrannical, willfully killing loyal people. Murong Bo, since you are forcing us step by step, then do not blame my Feng Manor for rebelling against your Murong family. Today, I will pull down your Murong family's position as the imperial family. If all of the soldiers here put down their weapons and pledge allegiance to my Feng family, you will all be spared from death. Otherwise, I will make sure that all of your million soldiers will die here. Pledge allegiance to the Feng family, and you will all be spared from death. Pledge allegiance to the Feng family, and you will all be spared from death. Pledge allegiance to the Feng family, and you will all be spared from death. Feng Jiu's voice was low and powerful. It echoed through the air and entered everyone's ears. It shook everyone's already shaky hearts. Based on the Feng Manor's fighting strength and the powerful guards, they had no chance of victory. Adding on the Feng Manor's words and the Feng family's eldest young miss saying that they would submit, everyone fell into deep thought. One by one, they dropped the weapons in their hands and knelt on one knee. We are willing to pledge allegiance to the Feng family. With this voice, another group of soldiers threw down their weapons and knelt, We are also willing to pledge allegiance to the Feng family. As wave after wave of voices rang out, Murong Bo, who was in the imperial chariot, could no longer sit still. He lifted the gauze curtain and stood up, glaring angrily at the soldiers kneeling around him. His old and hoarse voice trembled as he angrily scolded, you all have big guts! Guards! Guards! Kill them all for me! Kill them all!" It would have been better if he did not say this. Once he said this, the soldiers that were originally hesitant all threw down their weapons and knelt in front of the Feng manor. "We are also willing to pledge allegiance to the Feng family and pledge our loyalty to the Feng family." PFT. Anger attacked his heart and he coughed up a mouthful of blood. His entire body fell back into the imperial carriage. His chest violently heaved up and down. His eyes stared fixedly at the soldiers kneeling around him, as well as the red figure standing in front of the Feng Manor's gates. "Feng Qing. Kill her for me. Kill her. Cough cough cough." He pointed angrily at Fengjiu and ordered the martial arts grandmasters beside him to kill Feng Qinga. The martial arts grandmasters were helpless. Even though they knew that they were no match for Murong Bo, they had no choice but to step forward. They had all signed a contract with the heavens and earth. If they betrayed Murong Bo, their only outcome would be death. However, just as the 8 martial arts grandmasters charged towards Fengjiu, the 4 golden elixir stage cultivators instantly attacked. In a few breaths of time, the 8 martial arts grandmasters were all killed on the spot. The corpses of the 8 martial great masters lay on the ground. The smell of blood permeated the air, causing the entire place to become deathly silent. It was especially so for the various clans and forces who were watching from afar. All of them were dumbfounded. With just a few words, he had made the soldiers put down their weapons and surrender. This was too inconceivable. They originally thought that no matter what, a fight would break out. However, from the perspective of the Feng Manor's experts, dealing with these people would not be a problem. They never thought that there would be no need for them to do anything. One by one, they surrendered to the Feng family. The Feng family's eldest young miss has pulled down Murong Bo. Who is she trying to push onto the throne? A family head muttered, his heart feeling a bit complicated. A country could not go a day without a ruler. With the Murong family being pulled down, who would have the ability to firmly sit on the throne? Chapter 480. After all, Feng Xiao was still unconscious, so she was the only one left. Of course, if she did not sit there, perhaps someone from the Feng family's branch family would be pushed to the throne? Thinking about it, everyone felt that it was not too likely. None of the Feng family's branch family members had the ability to sit in the throne. Even if the Feng family was supporting her from behind, if she did not have the ability to handle matters, how could the throne be so easy to sit in? However, it was at this time that a large dark cloud suddenly appeared in the night sky, covering the Feng manor. There was a faint flash of lightning, and a rumbling sound came from the cloud, shocking everyone below into suddenly raising their heads. What is going on? Is it going to snow or thunder? Some people spoke with strange expressions, while others stared at the cloud that covered the Feng manor. Their eyes were filled with shock. Ha 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 ha. Feng Qing Go. Your Feng manor is bullying the master. Even the heavens can't bear to see it. Ha 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 ha. Strike. Strike them to death. Strike them to death. Murong Bo wildly laughed, but his voice was too old and powerless. It sounded very ear-piercing. After hearing Murong Bo's words, some of the people who already had strange expressions turned their gazes to the clouds above the Feng manor, thinking to themselves, this shouldn't really be as Murong Bo said. The Feng manor shouldn't have done something that would incur the wrath of the heavens and cause lightning to strike, right? Just as they were thinking, a bolt of lightning flashed across the night sky, and a bolt of heavenly lightning struck the Feng manor. The sound was so loud that even the ground began to shake. At this time, even the Feng guards raised their heads in shock. They were a little confused. Why did this bolt of lightning strike their Feng manor? Only Fengjiu's eyes lit up when she saw the bolt of lightning. A look of joy quickly appeared on her face. She looked at the second bolt of heavenly lightning that struck a certain part of the manor with a loud boom. The smile on her lips gradually deepened. When the 4 golden core cultivators saw the surging aura in the sky and the heavenly lightning striking the mansion, their eyes flashed with surprise. Then, they only smiled. It came faster than they expected, and from the looks of it, it should be a large success. Unlike cultivators, Xian martial artists could only attract heavenly lightning when they advanced from martial great master to martial emperor. After enduring 3 bolts of heavenly lightning, a martial great master would successfully advance to martial emperor. Currently, the only person in the Feng manor who was advancing was the head of the family, Feng Shao. Boom! When the 3rd bolt of lightning struck, the dark clouds in the sky suddenly scattered and a ray of light appeared in the night sky. This ray of light formed 7 colors that gradually spread out and almost covered the entire Yunhua city. The originally dark sky was as bright as day in this 7-colored light. The 7 colors complemented each other and shrouded the entire Yunhua city. As the light fell from the sky like rain, everyone in the city was shocked and ran out to see. Feng Manor. Heavens! I can actually see this kind of scene. Good fortune descending from the heavens. That must be someone with a high position and the heavens' favor. Only someone with good fortune can receive such good fortune from the heavens. Too unbelievable. This is the first time this old man has seen good fortune descend from the heavens. Chapter 481. Even Murong Bo, whose life force had almost dried up, recovered some of his vitality under this multicolored light. He stared blankly at the starry night sky and muttered, "How is this possible? How can this be? Who is it? Who else in the Feng manor is advancing? To be able to benefit all of Cloud Moon City's citizens." The citizens of the city all rushed towards the Feng manor because they had all seen that the place with the most multicolored light was where the Feng manor was located. Especially when they ran over and saw the soldiers kneeling on the ground, as well as the multicolored light in the sky above the Feng manor's head, each and every one of them began to jump in joy. It's the Feng manor! It's the light from the Feng manor! The surrounding families and factions were all shocked. They all stared blankly at the sky above the Feng manor. Their hearts were filled with shock. Even the heavens were helping the Feng manor. After tonight, even if the Feng family's eldest young miss wanted to become the ruler of the glorious Sun Country, probably no one would oppose it. However, at this moment, an angry roar came from the Feng manor. That voice carried a thunderous anger. It was clearly heard by everyone outside. "What a good Murong Bo! You really think my Feng family has no one?" Hiss! Hiss! It's Feng Shao. It's Feng Zhao's voice. Hiss! How is this possible? Wasn't he unconscious? Heavens! Could it be that the person advancing is Feng Shao? Cries of shock came from the mouths of the family heads and the surrounding cultivators. All of them stared with wide eyes in disbelief at the Feng manor. When they saw a figure holding a spear rushing out of the manor, they all froze. "Murong Bo! You treacherous person! My Feng family has retreated time and time again. We didn't even bother about you trying to kill me. Now you dare to bully my Feng family. Bully my daughter. You really deserve to die." A deafening voice that contained the powerful pressure of a martial emperor came out of Feng Zhao's mouth. Every word in that voice carried a fierce aura, sonorous, powerful, and piercingly cold. It was the iron-blooded aura that belonged to him, the fierce and unyielding martial spirit that belonged to him as a martial general. His voice was oppressive, and each word was like a blade, like numerous sharp blades that pierced towards Murong Bo's heart. Murong Bo, who had recovered a trace of vitality due to the multicolored light and stood up, was so shocked that his eyes widened when he heard Feng Zhao's furious voice. Now that he saw Feng Zhao holding a long spear and rushing over, he waved the long spear in his hand and heavily slammed it on the ground. He angrily pointed at Murong Bo, causing the blood in his chest to churn and a mouthful of his heart's blood to suddenly spurt out. Pooh! His body and mind suffered a blow, and his mind suffered a heavy blow. He only felt his vision darken. He could not believe it, nor did he want to believe it, that Feng Zhao, who he thought was seriously injured and unconscious, was actually standing in front of him with a majestic aura. Furthermore, he, who was originally in the early stages of martial great master, had now broken through to become a martial king. How was this possible? How was this possible? Feng Zhao. This time, he did not fall to the ground because he tightly held onto the imperial carriage and supported his body. His shocked gaze was filled with disbelief and hatred as he stared at the majestic figure standing in front of the Feng Manor's gates. Chapter 482. It's really Feng Zhao, he's fine. He even became a martial emperor. How did he become a martial emperor at such a young age? Other than shock, the crowd also felt an indescribable shock. Some people had cultivated for their entire lives and still could not break through to martial arts grandmaster. Even Yunhua City's old Master Gung and Feng Manor's old Master Feng were only at the peak of martial arts grandmaster after cultivating for their entire lives. However, Feng Zhao was originally only a beginner martial arts grandmaster. Even if he cultivated for another 50 years, it would be very difficult for him to reach martial emperor. But now, he did it. Not only did he not fall into a coma, but he also became the first martial emperor of the country of Glorious Sun. A martial emperor less than 100 years old. This was simply unbelievable. Die? Feng Zhao snorted heavily. The long spear in his hand shook again. Die so that you can destroy my Feng family? Die so that you can bully my daughter? My Feng family has protected the country of Glorious Sun for generations and is loyal to your Murong family. But in the end, you actually tried to kill me? What evil thing did I, Feng Zhao, do that you have to kill me? He questioned in a loud voice. Every sentence was harsh. He glared at Feng Zhao fiercely. I didn't come out of the hidden residence and handed over the imperial power. I didn't want to fuss over the fact that you tried to kill me. But what about you? You, Murong Bo, actually want my daughter to be someone else's concubine. You want to take over my Feng family's power. You want to recruit my Feng family's Feng guards. You want to destroy the century-old Feng family. Now, if I don't stand up, how can I face my Feng family's ancestors? Murong Bo, you've lost your power and your destiny is over. Killing you will dirty the long spear in my hand. Kill yourself. Other than you, I, Feng Zhao, will say that as long as they abide by the rules and don't go against my Feng family, I won't hurt them at all. Hearing these words, everyone sighed in their hearts. This Feng Zhao still had benevolence and righteousness in his heart. If it was someone else today, they would definitely kill the Murong Bo and then kill his descendants to prevent them from taking revenge in the future. However, Feng Zhao might have let them go because of their friendship with the previous generation of the Murong family. Doing this was already extremely benevolent. Perhaps it was because he had truly realized that he had lost his momentum, but at this moment, Murong Bo's eyes were lifeless. He stared blankly at all of the soldiers kneeling on the ground and not getting up. Facing the Feng Manor, he looked at all of the family factions standing nearby and watching. He looked at all of the citizens pointing at him and discussing him. It was as if he was the only one left in this world. He was so lonely and so sorrowful. Who could be blamed for the fact that he was deserted by his friends and family? The entire Morong dynasty was buried. Who was to blame? Ha 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 ha. I, Morong Bo, made a mistake, and then I made a mistake. Ha 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 ha. The sorrowful laughter seemed to have used up the last bit of his heart's blood. He raised his head and beat his chest as he laughed. Blood came out of his mouth and he staggered back 2 steps. His entire body collapsed on the imperial carriage. His eyes stared at the sky and he took his last breath. The ruler of a dynasty tragically fell in this situation where he was deserted by his friends and family. The surroundings suddenly quieted down. Everyone watched as Morong Bo took his last breath, but he was unable to close his eyes that stared at the sky. At this moment, everyone's hearts were indescribably complicated and they were all silent. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.